You are watching Just Motivation.
You know, Ken Carey, in his new book, The Third Millennium, said something that I thought was so beautiful. He said, "The warm rains of new thought fall gently on the soil of human consciousness." It's not as though this new consciousness-raising movement that's going on is a big storm or battering at people's doors. It's that it's like a gentle spring rain, and as it falls, it awakens the soil, and little blades of grass are raising everywhere on the planet. Look at us here, a sea of spring grass, awakening souls. Now, for some of you, I may say some revolutionary things today, and for others who've been on the pathway for some time, it may just reconfirm what you already know. But it's a glorious time that we're living in, and wonderful new things to learn, new understandings to have of our human consciousness. You know, deep at the center of our being, there is an infinite well of love, an infinite well of joy, an infinite well of peace, and a place within us where we are totally connected with infinite wisdom. These are the treasures that are within us, and they're only a breath away. So just for a moment, I'd like you to close your eyes and come with me. Let's go to that place within you where there is infinite love, where you can see life through unconditional love. And the more love you share and give, the more will return to you. So feel that love and let it grow and expand. Now come with me to that place where there is indescribable joy, bubbling, where you see the joy of life at all times. And let yourself feel that joy within you. And feel it grow and expand. And then come with me to that place within you where there is deep, serene peace, as quiet as a mountain lake, where the outside world cannot touch you. And feel that peace. And then come to that place within you where there is infinite wisdom, where all the answers to all the questions you will ever ask are already within you, where whatever it is you need to know will be revealed to you. These are the treasures within you. And as you open your eyes and come back to this room, keep remembering that you have these treasures. Do we use them once a day, once a week, once a month, once a year? Or do we totally forget that we have these within us? You see, when we use the treasures that are within us, we will get to drop a lot of the burdens that we carry. Burdens like anger and rage and shame and guilt and prejudice, judgment. We will not need to create illnesses any longer. And I really think we can begin to reverse the aging process. because it is burdens that age us. So I'd like to ask you that once a day or twice a day, first thing in the morning and last thing at night, you stand in front of a mirror and look into your own eyes and say, I am filled with unconditional love, and I share it today. I am filled with indescribable joy, and I feel it today. And I am filled with deep, serene peace, and I experience it today. And I am connected with infinite wisdom. And I listen for those answers. I receive those answers today. Because this is the truth of your being. And people who declare the truth can literally change the world. I know it sounds simplistic, it's repetitive, and it is very powerful. We have so much within us that in times past we have not been taught to use. But what is happening now is we are learning the power of our minds and what this can do for us, and how it can literally transform our lives. I am not a healer. I do not heal anyone. I am a teacher who shares ideas with people. And like most good teachers, I too have had many, many dark nights of the soul. And many of us good teachers have come through very, very difficult childhoods. And we have learned to heal the past and release the past. And that is why we are able to help you do the same thing. Because we cannot create a glorious future or a wonderful today if we are in bondage to the past. Remember, forgiveness is healing our wounds of the past. In my own life, as far as I know, my life was very wonderful till I was around 18 months old. And then my parents divorced, and I went into a series of foster homes. My mother was an uneducated woman, and she needed to work as a domestic, as a servant in someone's house, and was not able to take me. So I went to a series of foster homes, and life was very difficult for me. And then when I was about 5 years old, she remarried because she wanted to make a home for me. But unfortunately, she married a very abusive man. So life became a different kind of hell at that point for both of us. And around the same time when I was 5, I was raped by a neighbor. And I remember being told that it was my fault and that I was shaming the family. But nevertheless, there was a court case, and the man did go to jail for 16 years. But I was very scared during my childhood that at some point this man would come out and punish me because I had put him in jail. And when I was in my early teens, then in addition to the physical abuse I was handling, there began to be sexual abuse from my stepfather. And when I was just about 15, I thought that was enough, and I left home and went out into the world. Only unfortunately, because of my upbringing and because of the fact that we were so poor and I had been abused so much, my self-worth and my self-esteem was literally under the stage, under the building. I had none. I had no self-worth, no self-esteem, and no social skills at all. And because I was so very, very starved for love in those days, if a young man would put his arms around me, I would go to bed with him. And so within a year, I had a little baby girl. And it amazes me sometimes when I look back now and think that I was able at that age, which is with as little as I knew, to find her a really good home with a really good family. And once she was 5 days old, I left her life and I have never seen her. When I look at that from my perspective of today and my understanding, I see that that little girl had to get to that family, and I was the vehicle to take her there. And because of my belief in my lack of self-worth, it was one more experience of shame that I needed to prove to myself how terrible I was. You know, we talk a lot about teenage pregnancy and how terrible it is. But what many people don't seem to realize is that no young woman, no young girl with self-worth and self-esteem would allow herself to get pregnant in the first place. We must fill our children with self-confidence and self-worth so that they are able to handle the challenges that life brings them. If you fill them with fear, they become powerless and they do not know how to heal. So I went on with my life, but because of my belief in myself, my beliefs about life, I attracted many abusive men and many menial jobs. And it took a long time before I could begin to turn that around because I had no self-worth. However, in time, things began to change. And I remember at one point, I married in my late 20s, I married a wonderful Englishman. He taught me social skills, and it was a very nice period of my life for about 14 years. And then one day he wanted a divorce. And of course, I was totally devastated. Because once again, I was saying, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, I can never do it right. But I didn't realize at the time that life was really giving me an opportunity to move into a new phase. And while it was very difficult for me for some time, they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And my teacher appeared in the form of a class. A friend said to me, I'm going to a lecture tonight. Would you like to come with me? And I went. And it literally began the turning point of my life. I was in my early 40s, and these people told me that if I was willing to change my thinking, I could change my life. And it was the most important thing that I think I have ever heard in my life. And while I didn't know what they were talking about and didn't really know what they meant, something inside of me said yes. And so I started to go to classes and read books and listen to tapes and make notes furiously and study and study. I, who had been a high school dropout and had never studied anything in my life, suddenly found a subject that absolutely fascinated me, the way my mind worked and the influence it had on my body and on my life. So I was studying away, and time passed, and my life started to change. I was doing affirmations and making some progress, and I started to get what I call the green lights in the parking places, when the little things in life start to work for you. And I thought I was pretty hot stuff. And I was in those days. I was doing well. And after a time, I got to a point where I began to teach what I knew and work with people on how to help them change their consciousness, to change their lives. And then one day, I was diagnosed with cancer. And just like anyone else who is diagnosed with cancer, I went into total panic. I was absolutely petrified. But I did have something on my side. I had tools to work with because I had worked with other people. And at that point, I knew that the mental equivalent for the disease called cancer is resentment. Deep, old resentment that literally eats away at the body over time. I remember calling my teacher and saying, "They say I have cancer." And he said to me, "Louise, you cannot have done all the work you've done on yourself to die of cancer. Now let's take a positive approach." And I remember clinging to that statement. And I began to do all the things I could figure out to do to handle this. I knew that if I would have the operation that they said I must have, and I didn't clear the mental pattern that was contributing to this disease, then they'd just keep cutting Louise until there was no more Louise left. You see, I don't believe that doctors don't get it all out. I think that we contribute to a condition in our bodies. We go have an operation, we come back, and we live life in exactly the same way. We don't change our thinking, we don't change our habits, we don't change our attitudes. And of course, the condition comes back. So I remember doing a lot of praying, a lot of affirmations, a lot of visualizations. I used to visualize several times a day cool, clear water flowing through my body, washing out the diseased cancer cells. I also went to a good nutritionist, and this person helped me detoxify my body, take the negative junk out of my body that I had so unknowingly eaten for so many years. And then I also went to a good therapist and detoxified my mind of the junk thoughts that I had been carrying around for so very long. This was a therapist who was able to help me release the angers and the resentment that had to have been within me from having carried that for so long. But one of the most important things that happened was that I learned about forgiveness from a personal point of view. I realized that my stepfather, who was so abusive, was once born a beautiful, innocent little baby, like all of us. So the story was how to figure out he got from that point of a baby, a beautiful baby, to the place where he would be so abusive. And I began to explore his childhood, and I realized that he was also a highly abused child. In fact, he had a twin brother who was so traumatized by the family experience that he went into an institution and never came out. Now, this was not to condone his behavior. It was not to say that what he did was okay, but it was to have some understanding on why and how it could have happened. And as I began to understand, I was able to begin the forgiveness process, which was not for him, but it was for me. It was time to heal my wounds. And in 6 months of absolutely intense concentration and doing everything I could think of the right thing to do, I remember, I know I had more to eat, but it seems that the only thing I can remember is sprouts and pureed asparagus. But I did all these things, and all of them combined. Within 6 months, I was able to get the medical profession to agree with what I already knew, that I no longer had cancer. And this was an extraordinarily powerful experience for me, because I began to realize that if we're willing to do the work, and many of us are not. You know, there are lots of people would rather die than change their diet, and they do. But if we're really willing to do the work, almost anything can be healed. I have spoken since, or many people who have come through cancer, have said to me, and I've heard this over and over again, that it was probably the most powerful experience of their life because it gave them the opportunity to change. And by changing, they not only healed their body, but they healed their lives. So this was a very big thing for me. And I went forth, I continued to go forth and to teach and share my experiences with others and help them learn how to release their own traumas. And today, I live a totally different life than I ever have before. My thinking is completely different. Abusive men do not know I exist. I'm no longer sending out those signals. And I rejoice in all that is going on in my life. I'm in my 69th year now, and I'm going to be 70 in October. And among other things, I'm becoming very interested in how we age and why. And I know that at the moment we're in the process of a lot of evolutionary changes. See, life comes in waves and learning experiences and evolutionary changes. And we're in a large period of evolution now. And I see my own work now moving in two directions. One, to work with women and really bring them up to where they belong. And the other is to work with elders. And seeing that we do not have to age in the way we used to age. See, it's all consciousness, it's all belief systems, it's society belief systems and our individual belief systems. But these are only thoughts and customs, and they can be changed. I know that many of you in this audience today have read some of my books, or listened to the tapes, or have read other books and tapes, and have taken responsibility for your life and have made changes. See, first of all, I really want to help the women. I want to see that all women have self-love, self-worth, and self-esteem. You know, it's interesting. Up until the 1970s, the only ending you ever put with the word self was like selfish. And for centuries, if anyone wanted to do any work on themselves to improve their own life, they were told they were selfish. And therefore, they couldn't do it. But in the 70s, when we began to have a change in consciousness, we began to realize that we must all have self-love, self-worth, and self-esteem if we're really going to make a difference in our lives. And I think that when women have this, they will take a powerful place in society. You see, for centuries and centuries, women have been under the whims and the belief systems of men. And it is time that we start being powerful in our own way, in our own lives. I think inner self-worth is the most important thing that a woman can develop. It is absolutely vital to our well-being. Because when we have self-worth and self-esteem, we will no longer accept positions of abuse or an inferiority. We will not do that. Women have been brainwashed for centuries into certain kinds of behavior in order to be good women. And I know that there are many women that go around in deep resentment at the roles they feel forced to play. And many times, illness is their only way to get a rest. Some people would even die to get rest. And I think it's time we stop that. But you see, no matter where we came from no matter what the family rules were, no matter how abused we were as children, we women can learn to love and cherish ourselves today. The same thing goes true for men, but I'm talking about women right now. You see, because when we learn to love and cherish who we are, then as mothers, as women and mothers, we will automatically pass this on to our daughters and our daughters' daughters and their granddaughters. And our daughters will no longer accept abuse, and our sons will have respect for everyone, including all the women in their lives. And as women have self-esteem and pass this on to their children, then their children and their children's children will not need to go through the diminishment and the self-abuse and the abuse that so many women go through now, and our mothers have gone through, and our grandmothers and their grandmothers. It is time to make changes. Now, I am not into male bashing at all, putting men down, because I don't think that that's a good thing to do in any way. That if women blame men for their problems, then we're only going to be stuck, because a victim is always in a powerless position, and blaming others keeps us powerless, keeps us stuck. I have tremendous compassion for men, because men too are stuck in their roles, and they carry enormous burdens and a lot of problems. You know, when you think of it, little boys are taught not to cry and not to have feelings. And to me, this is a form of child abuse and torture, because we are meant to have feelings. We all have tears so that we can use them. And also, you know, if you really want to see a man cry, give him a very safe space to be, and let him talk about the relationship he has with his father. So many times you will hear the regret and the sadness for what might have been and wasn't, and all the things that could have been said, and the many times they wanted to hear "I love you" and didn't. So we all carry our burdens and our problems. I think we need to put together something called Every Woman's Successful Guide for Living, which will be a guideline for women on how to think about themselves and how to feel. And it will create a new paradigm for women. I think it's important that we strengthen the ties between women all over the planet, and support and encourage each other in every way that we can. Because remember, if you discourage another person for anything, that discouragement will come back to you in some way. But if we support and encourage each other, then life in turn will support and encourage us. The other thing that I want to do is to work with elders. I almost see creating a movement called Elders of Excellence. I don't know how it is here, but in the States, we're a big youth culture, and we don't think a whole lot of our elders. But you see, all of us get older, so we're setting up what it's going to be like for ourselves when we get older. See, I think it's time that we begin to break the current stereotypes on aging. We need to totally revise our thoughts about aging, what society thinks and believes. Longevity has been changing for quite some time now. You know, in the Roman times, we only lived till our late teens. It was like we reproduced and we were on our way out. And even in 1900, the longevity, the life expectancy for people was 49 years. And in 1 century, we have moved it up to around 80. Well, if we can do that in 1 century, Why can't we move it up to 125 or 150? It's all just a concept. Science is beginning to discover that there may be absolutely no limits to how long we can live. You know, they did a study in a university a few years ago in the States on middle age, and they discovered that at whatever age you believed middle age to be is the time when your body starts deteriorating. And if you believe that 40 is middle age, then you're going to start going down. If you believe 50 is middle age, that's when you'll go down. But what if you believed that 75 was middle age? What a difference that would make. See, the body has to follow the thoughts in the mind. It has to. The thoughts we think and the words we speak are incredibly powerful. So we're in the middle of enormous evolutionary changes right now. Women rising to power and elders living much, much longer lives. You see, we're all going to grow older, all of us. But we have choices on how we do this. The only people who won't grow older are the people who die. But if we grow older, do we want to age happily or do we want to age miserably? You know that expression of that, oh, I'm too old to do this. Well, I think very soon that's going to be totally outmoded as we find that we can do all sorts of things we thought we couldn't do in the past. They did something in Pennsylvania just recently, again in a university. They took a group of 80-year-olds and 90-year-olds and started giving them weightlifting training. And they found that they could revitalize their bodies. You know, so much of the disability that goes with old age comes from years of not using our bodies, just sitting or shuffling across the room. And by having weightlifting exercises, their whole bodies were revitalized. And they noticed that the 90-year-olds, in 2 months, they could triple their strength. Well, you know, when you start to feel that you have power again, it does wonderful things for your mind. It's youthening on every level. And there's a group of women in Dallas, Texas. They call themselves the Steel Magnolias. And they're 65 to 85. And they're a karate group. And they go around and do karate demonstrations to show people what women of any age can do. And I tell you, if a mugger ever approached any of those women, they'd be in trouble, because those women know how to handle themselves, including the 85-year-old. And it was very interesting that the trainers said that the most difficult thing to teach the women were not the movements, but the voice. That when they made a movement and they had to go, ha! That was very difficult for the women to learn, because they weren't used to using their voices with power. But once they got it, that was different. And I was reading, I think it was just a week ago, there's a 91-year-old pilot who has a small newspaper. It's in the West somewhere. And they produce a weekly edition. And every week he gets in his airplane with all the newspapers rolled up, and he goes to the outlying farms. And he has the papers next to him, and he picks them up, and he flings them. And he says, I can get it on the porch every time. You see, we are only limited if we think we are limited. There are always people doing things that we think we can't do. The brain does not wither and die unless we stop using it. We have to keep stimulating ourselves and keep moving and keep exercising. You know, I expect to live a very long time. I figure I've got at least 30 more years of work to do, and I want to be in good shape. It's the only way I'm going to do it. I go to the gym 3 times a week. I eat as well as I can. When I'm home, I grow my own food. I eat lots of vegetables. I want to take care of myself mentally and physically so that I can keep moving with agility to my very last day. You know, they've done a lot of research on elders, but unfortunately, it's all been on sick people. What's wrong with people? And I think it's time that we start doing some in-depth studies on older people who are happy, healthy, fulfilled, and really enjoying life. Because when we study these people, then we will learn how we can all do it. Unfortunately, pharmaceutical companies do not make money on healthy people. So somebody else is going to have to do the research. You see, soon we're going to have more older people than we've ever had before, and it's time that we reshape our thinking. We must reshape our thinking and everything concerned with that. We've got to sort of unplug ourselves from society's concept of aging, the current concepts. We must, because I think that we can make the second half of our life even more wonderful than the first. But we must create a conscious ideal of what this is going to be so that we can aim for it. You see, too many people equate age with poverty and sickness and loneliness and being frail. And if we look around us and see a lot of that, that is because this is what we have created by our past belief thinking. Remember, today, you are always living and experiencing what you believed yesterday and last week and last month. But what you are choosing to believe and think today will create tomorrow and next month and next year and your future. So we can always make our changes now. But I agree, it is not, there's no point in living a long time until we can really accept and believe that we are greatly responsible for our health and our dis-ease. You know, neuropeptides work equally for everyone. Neuropeptides are the chemical messengers that travel throughout our body whenever we think a thought or speak something, whenever we talk or think. And if we have negative thoughts, if we are bitter, if we are angry, then the chemicals that are produced in our brain depress our immune systems. But if when we think thoughts, we are loving and optimistic and open and have faith in life and in other people and in ourselves, then the chemicals that are produced at that time strengthen our immune system. It's as simple as that. Whatever we think is constantly having an effect on our bodies and our experiences. You know, for a long time, I really didn't understand the concept of we are all created equal, because that seems so strange. You know, there are tall people, short people, rich people, poor people. There are attractive people, unattractive people. There are stupid people. There are brilliant people. What do you mean we're all created equal? And then I finally got it. What that means is, no matter who we are, the same thoughts affect us in the same ways. Anger is as toxic to a Jewish body as it is to a Christian body, to a Spanish body or a Chinese body, to a homosexual body or a heterosexual body. Anger is a toxic emotion. We are all created equal. If we think in negative thinking, if that's our consistent way of living, we are guaranteed to develop dis-ease. If we have an illness and we will not let go of our past, if we will not forgive, if we will not heal our emotional wounds, we will not heal our bodies. And that is as true in every country, with both sexes, with everyone. We are all one, and we are all created equally. All this stuff about how we look and how much money we have, that is the outer illusion. But the internal process is exactly the same for all of us. All of us. Neuropeptides work equally. So next time you're letting yourself go into a pit of rage, try to stop yourself and say, no, wait a minute. I'm depressing my immune system. Is this what I want to do? Conscious living is what we're aiming for. Conscious living. See, we're all setting up our later years. All of us. I don't care whether you're 14 or 40 or 60 or whatever. You're setting up your later years. And two questions that I think are vital for all of us to ask ourselves is, one, how do you want to age? How do you want to age? How do you see yourself when you're 75? What do you see? What kind of a person? Alive and vital? Or in a wheelchair? And the next question is, how do you want to die? How do you want to die? Do you want to die in a hospital bed with tons of tubes in you? Or do you want to, when it's your time to go, have a little party and say goodbye to all your friends and then go to bed and go to sleep? Wouldn't that be a better way? You see, we're constantly creating our future, and we need to think that far ahead, because what we're doing today has a lot to do with how that will be. How will it be when we're older? I'd like to see us all be elders of excellence, and each one of us using those treasures within us that I talked about at the very beginning. And you see, if you really believe, if you can trust life, you have faith in life, if you know you're filled with unconditional love, if you know you're filled with joy, if you know that within you is so much peace that nothing can ever hurt you, and if you know that all the answers to any question you ask is there, that whatever you need to know is revealed to you, then what difference does it make what our future is? It's going to be good. And we can be flexible and flowing and trust life. Takes a while to get to that point, though theoretically we could do it in an instant. It depends how much we're willing to let go of tribal concepts and all those limitations we were raised with. You know, I'm a very, very simple lady with a simple, simple message. Love yourself and heal your life. Forgive the past, move on, and live in today. You cannot have a wonderful today if you're holding on to the misery of the past, or even the good of the past, or you're terrified of the future. You know, the people that talk about the good old days and how wonderful it was and it isn't good now, remember, you've created both realities. And if you created good days at one point in your life, you can do it again, even if today is not that good. Get a hold of your thinking. Start to do conscious living, conscious. You know, life is simple if we let it be, but we make it so complicated. But if we really just understand that what we think is what we get, what you believe is what will show up in your life. But your thinking, and that's all changeable. It can move. See, what is the reality that we create for ourselves? I love these two images. Do we live in a dungeon of limitation, or do we live in a palace of possibilities? I like to feel that where I am is the totality of possibilities of all good. Not just yes or no or this or that. You know, we live and think in limited human mind thinking. It has to be this way or that way, or if it can't work this way, how can it happen? Well, the universe is incredibly smarter than we are and has the totality of possibilities to supply us with everything we desire, as long as we can believe that we deserve it. See, when we change our thinking, we change our lives because we drop our limitations. Limitations are what it's all about. And we've had some experiences that show us that we can drop limitations. You know, how many people here have heard of fire walking? Walking on hot coals, the classes? Some? Well, a few, all right. Okay, has anybody here actually done it? Okay, one person back there. We all know that it is totally impossible to walk on hot coals with your bare feet and not get burned. Now, we know that. And yet, there are people out there now teaching classes on how to do it and getting 20 and 30 people to do it in an evening. Now, if you have a dis-ease like cancer, and you attend a fire walk, as they call them, and you can walk on hot coals without getting burned, wouldn't that blow your mind totally? In that case, surely you could drop a small thing like cancer. We are in the process of moving beyond limitations. We all want to find that place within us where the bumblebee lives. I don't know if you have them here, but in the States we have something called a bumblebee, and it's a very fat little bee, and it has little short wings. And science says that that bee cannot fly because its body is too big for its wings. Well, the bumblebee doesn't know this, so the bumblebee flies everywhere. The limitation is not in the bumblebee, the limitation is in science's interpretation. And we all have that place within us where we can do things that we did not know we could do. But we have to give ourselves a chance. You know, I like to think of our thoughts like drops of water. One thought does not mean very much. It's like one drop of water on this stage. But I'm told that we think about 60,000 thoughts a day. And unfortunately, most of them are the thoughts we had yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before. But you know, if you think of these thoughts keep dropping and dropping, 60,000 a day, pretty soon you can have a little puddle, a little pond, a small lake, almost an ocean. And if our thinking is negative, we can drown in a sea of negativity. Or we can float on the ocean of life. It is up to us, totally. I think I have taught myself to think primarily in positive affirmations. And yes, it is a little bit of work to change our thinking, to be conscious of it, to be aware of what we think and what we believe. But once we can do that, it makes a tremendous difference. Now, you know, we talk about affirmations a lot, which are positive statements. But what people don't realize is that every thought we think and every word we speak is an affirmation. You've been doing affirmations all your life, but you've been doing them unconsciously, and a lot of them have been very negative. So we need to look at what is it we really believe so we can make the changes. And that's why I say to people, take a large piece of paper and write on the top of it what I believe about men. And then take another piece, what I believe about women. Another piece, what I believe about children, what I believe about life, work, finances, marriage, relationships, money, health, aging, the church, my family. And just start writing things down. Whatever comes to your head, no matter how foolish it is, write it down, write it down. And it may take you almost a week of going back to these papers to finish them. But when you see them and start looking at the list of what you believe, you will be amazed. And some things that come up, you'll say, oh, I couldn't believe that. But if it comes up, there is a part of you somewhere in there that does believe that. So then you want to look at your lists for all the negative things that you believe and either make a decision to eliminate them totally, let them go. You know, ask yourself, is this the belief I want to have run my life? And then turn those negative things into positive affirmations. Once you see what you believe, you'll know the things that support you and are very good and powerful for you, and you will also see the things that are undermining you, the beliefs that are keeping you from having what you say you want. So many of us live in the limitations of our past consciousness, the limitations of our parents' belief systems, the limitations of the schools, the teachers at school, limitations of the church. There are so many things that we have in there. And I like to use as an affirmation, I go beyond the limitations of my parents or whatever. I go beyond that now. Because, you know, even if you had the best parents in the world, they had limitations. And you want to create the most powerful life you can possibly create for yourself. We want to sort of unplug our circuits. It's like there's parts of it that have almost like tubes connected to the past, to the bondage of the past. And we want to bring those back in, call our spirits back, call our power back. Because as long as we are in bondage to the past, we cannot make changes in the future. I think it's very important that we use the tools that we have learned. If you read a book, you go to a class, listen to a lecture, have a tape, use that stuff. Don't just read it and say, oh, isn't that a nice book, and then go on in the same old way. If you can walk out of here today with one sentence that I have said that you really practice and work with, you will change your life for the better. But we must use the tools that we have learned. We want to trust the process of life. You know, just as your body is always aiming for absolute optimum health at all times, no matter what we do to it, so it is with life. Life is here for us if we trust it and have faith and power in the process of life. I like to think of the process of life as here for me. And it has taken me time to learn that. And I still have problems. Everybody has problems. I have learned to deal with them in a different way. And I'd like to share this with you. I would like to get as many people dealing with their problems in this way rather than the old ways. When a problem comes up for me, as quickly as I can get a hold of my mind, I say, all is well. Everything is working out for my highest good. Out of this situation, only good will come, and I am safe. And I will repeat this over and over and over again. All is well. Everything is working out for my highest good. And out of this situation, only good will come. And I say it till I clear the air for myself so that I know the truth of this situation. And that gives the universe a chance to find the solution. And I have seen it work miracles. It gets you through things. The phone can ring and there can be a solution. Something will happen because you have taken your mind off the problem and you have declared the truth for yourself. It is a very powerful exercise. I travel the world a lot, and I am so pleased to see that everywhere I go, there are audiences like this. And it's not just audiences for me. It's audiences of people that are eager to take control of their life. And it's happening all over the planet. I get letters from everywhere. We are searching for new answers. You know, the astrologers would say that in the Piscean age, we looked outside of ourselves for a savior. We'd say, save me, save me, save me. But the Aquarian age, which we are beginning to enter now, we are turning within to find the Savior within. We are learning that we are co-creators with the universe. It's not just that we're little helpless victims and life is buffeting us about, but we are co-creators. We have a lot to do with our experiences and our health. And I see another phenomena that is really wonderful. It's what I call the self-help groups that are getting together. It's becoming a new social norm. People getting together with the similar problems, looking for solutions. It doesn't do any good to get together with a problem if all you do is sit there and play Ain't It Awful? Oh, isn't this terrible? But if you're looking for solutions, everybody in that group can improve the quality of their life. So we look at our beliefs, we make our lists, we see what barriers we have put up to stop us from living the full and rich life that we could. This is not to make us wrong, but we must see what it is we believe before we can make the changes. And then we develop some guidelines for living. And one of the first and most important one is to stop all criticism. This is absolutely vital. Criticism never heals anything. It doesn't heal anything out there. It doesn't heal anything in here. We need to love and accept ourselves. When you're scolded, it's hard to make changes. When you're loved, it's easy to make changes. And besides, the things that we have been criticizing ourselves for years, we're still criticizing ourselves for. It's not the way to help. And the things we criticize other people for are reflections of things we don't like about ourselves. The next thing is don't scare yourself. How many times have you absolutely terrorized yourself with your own thoughts? Don't do that. It's a very unloving thing to do. Let your thoughts be your best friends. Let your thoughts support you in every way possible. Be committed to the relationship you have with yourself. You have been with yourself since the moment you were born, and you will be with yourself until you leave the planet. Don't scold yourself. You want to wake up in the morning and be thrilled to find that you're there. You know, we're so wonderful with other people, and we're so devoted to relationships with other people, but we toss ourselves away and get around to ourselves now and then. No, be committed to yourself. Treat yourself as though you are loved, as though you are someone who is very loved by you. I always suggest that people go to the mirror first thing in the morning and look in the mirror and say, I love you. What can I do today to make you happy? It's a great way to start your day. You know, how many people have somebody that says that to them? I love you, and how can I make you happy today? Well, don't wait for somebody else. Do it for yourself. Do it for yourself. Take care of your body. We want to live a long time. We want to be in great shape. So take loving care of your body. And educate yourself. We all need to do that. We think, oh, I can't do this or that, but we're bright, and there's so much out there for us now. There's books and tapes and classes and lectures and videos. It's all out there. There's so much we can learn. I know I'm going to be learning something new every single day as long as I'm on this planet. As long as I'm on this planet. I will never know it all. But I want to know more and more. One of the things I say in the morning when I wake up is that I want to have more understanding today than I had before. I want to deepen my understanding. And I think it's vital that we all build a financial future for ourselves, everyone. And it doesn't matter where you start. It's vital that women have money of their own.
We all have a lot of false beliefs about life and ourselves, and we have so many strict rules about how we should live our lives. But you see, we can't really change the past. That's all there is to it. And everything you've experienced in your life up to this point has been created by your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs from yesterday, last week, last month, last year, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, however far back you go. The point of power is always in the present moment, which means that what you choose to think about right now will create tomorrow and next week and next month and next year. The past has no hold on us. The power is concentrated in the present moment, and we can start being free right now. Also, right now, we do have control over our thoughts. We may not believe so, but we do. Almost everyone on this planet, including myself and everyone I've ever worked with, appears to be suffering from self-hatred and guilt to some extent. The more of it we have, the better or worse our lives are, and the less of it we have, the worse or better our lives are. It's almost as if the bottom line for almost everyone I know is that I'm not good enough. And we frequently add, and I don't do enough, and I don't deserve this. Now, if we have a strong belief in our subconscious mind, which for me is right here in the gut, that we are not good enough and do not deserve, it will be extremely difficult for us to create a life that truly works in all categories. You see, regardless of the circumstances, we are only dealing with a thought. I don't believe in empowering external effects. We may believe that being broke is the issue. This, in my opinion, is the outward manifestation of an inner problem. These effects are caused by inner thought patterns. I've discovered that resentment, criticism, fear, and guilt patterns cause more problems in our lives than anything else. On a physical level, too, resentment that has festered for a long time literally eats away at the body and can develop into cancer. Long-term criticism can also result in conditions such as arthritis, and you can almost see the criticism if you look at arthritic hands. Fear can cause everything from baldness to bad feet, and guilt is always painful. Guilt demands punishment, and punishment inflicts pain. So when someone comes to me in chronic pain, I know they're struggling with old guilt patterns. Love, joy, and forgiveness are powerful healers. They all originate from the heart, which represents love, and the blood in the body represents joy. So a normal, healthy heart lovingly pumps joy throughout the body, nourishing all the cells and organs and creating a loving, joyous environment in which the cells can do their work. If a heart's ability to express love and joy has been lost, forgiveness will unlock the door. The majority of our problems stem from blaming others rather than taking responsibility for ourselves. And as I previously stated, if we are all responsible for everything in our lives, there is no one to blame, not even ourselves, and every external experience is simply a reflection of our inner thought patterns. This could be a new way of looking at life, because most people like to believe that everything is their fault. It could be the economy, a husband, a wife, or a boss, a lack of funds, or anything else. But in reality, everything out there is a reflection of what we think and believe on the inside. For example, if everyone is always criticizing you, if you go around saying everyone is always criticizing, then I want you to understand that it is your pattern to be criticized somewhere within you. And while you may be unaware of it, there is a belief, most likely passed down from your childhood, that you deserve to be criticized. As a result of your belief and your pattern, you attract critical people into your life. You can even attract people who are normally not critical, but because they are with you and because of the vibrations you are sending out, you will draw the criticism out of them. Another thing to consider is that if you are frequently criticized, it is very likely that you are very critical, because what we give out comes back to us. The criticism you give to others, or perhaps to yourself, is reflected by those around you. So when there is a problem, one of the first things I like to do with people is have them begin to say, I am willing to change the pattern in my consciousness that is creating this condition. I'm going to say it again because it's critical. When you want to change something about your life, begin by telling yourself that you are willing to change the pattern in your consciousness that is causing this condition. This simple sentence gets things started. Every thought you have and every word you speak is constantly being responded to by the universal power, universal energy, the law of mind, and your subconscious mind. So, even the smallest shift in consciousness causes our experience to change. It's your pattern. It's my pattern. We're all working with patterns. And as I previously stated, the majority of the patterns we have come from the time we were 3 to 5 years old. So these are our beliefs about life, our life scripts. However, we can change our attitudes toward the past, and we are never stuck with these life scripts. You know, it's really stupid to punish ourselves in the present because of some past hurt. Being hurt once is one thing, but to constantly punish ourselves as a result of it is very sad and unfulfilling. It is critical that we resolve resentment now because it can lead to a number of problems in the future. I've often told people that we should do it before we face the surgeon's knife, because then we have to deal with panic, and it's much easier to do it now. We have the option of being a helpless victim and truly believing that everything is hopeless, and if we do, the universe will back us up in our belief, and then we all go down the drain. Can you see how powerful our thoughts are? They create our experiences. If I choose to believe that I am unlovable, I will be lonely for the rest of my life, because I intend to back up my claims. However, if I want to change that belief and believe that I am always surrounded by love and that my life is full and rich, that is what my life will become. My life will have to reflect my inner experiences. So one of the things we want to do is start releasing the pain of the past, letting it go, and being willing to forgive. Do you know that the Course in Miracles states that all illness stems from a lack of forgiveness, and that whenever we are sick, we must look around to see who we must forgive? This does not necessarily imply that bad behavior is acceptable, because I agree that many people behave badly. Forgiving means letting go of our baggage and let ourselves be free, as well as the other person. We understand that the people who mistreated us are also in pain, and that they are doing the best they can with the knowledge, awareness, and understanding that they have at the time and place in which they are. Over the years, I've learned that there is only one thing to teach: love. I teach people to love themselves in the present moment, because self-approval and acceptance in the present are the keys to positive change. This includes no self-criticism. To change our lives on the outside, we must first change ourselves. At the very least, we must be willing to change. You are not required to know how to do this. Simply be willing. We'll get to work on the house. Remember, and I'll say it again, the universal energy responds to every thought we have and every word we speak. So it's amazing how the universe begins to help us the moment we say we're willing. It provides us with what we require. I hope this will aid you in your journey. This is how you will be truly free. See you next time on Just Motivation.